The tale of Smeagol called Gollum. Long before the War of the Ring, when the lands of Middle-earth still knew the quiet of forgotten ages, there lived upon the banks of the Great River Anduin a people not unlike the hobbits of the Shire. They were called the Stoors, larger of frame, fond of the water, skilled in fishing, and content in their simple ways. Among them was a child named Smeagol. He was born beneath the willows and reeds, where the river bent in slow, shining curves. His people loved him for his quick mind and nimble hands, but there was a restless streak in him, a curiosity that ran deeper than the Anduin itself. He would wander far from his village, peering into hidden nooks, turning over stones to find the things that crept beneath. He asked questions that no one else asked, and his eyes were always searching for something more. As he grew, that curiosity darkened into something sharper. He lingered in shadows, listening to tales of old powers, of secret treasures buried under mountains and lost in rivers. He learned to peer into minds with his questions, to slip through the words of others and twist them. Yet still he remained among his kin, a little stranger in their midst, until the day that fate took him. It was his birthday, and with his cousin Sméagol he went out upon the river to fish. The sky was bright with the light of midsummer, and the reeds whispered. As they cast their lines and drifted with the current, Sméagol's hook caught something heavy. He was dragged overboard, down into the cool, green depths, and there upon the riverbed his fingers closed upon a small gold ring. It shone like sunlight in the water. Sméagol surfaced, gasping, the treasure clutched in his fist. Sméagol saw it, and in that instant his heart leapt with a hunger he had never known. The ring called to him, though he did not yet understand what it was. "Give it to me, Sméagol," he said, "because it's my birthday. It should be my present." But Sméagol, startled by the change in his cousin's voice, refused. The desire that had awoken in Sméagol turned to rage. His hands closed around Sméagol's throat, and with grim strength he strangled the life from him. The sound of the river swallowed Sméagol's last cry. Sméagol took the ring, already calling it my birthday present, and slipped it onto his finger. From that moment his path turned dark. The ring whispered to him, and he began to withdraw from his people. Shadows followed him wherever he went. He would disappear for days, returning with strange fish and muttering to himself. His kin began to shun him, calling him Gollum, for the choking noise he made in his throat. Finally, driven by their fear and his own growing shame, he left them. He crept away from the sunlight, from the singing of birds, from all that was bright. Down into the roots of the misty mountains he went, carrying the ring and his twisted memories. There he made his home in a lightless cavern, beside an underground lake. Centuries passed. The ring stretched his life far beyond its natural span, but it also ate at his body and soul. His frame grew thin and wiry, his skin pale as a blind fish, his eyes large and gleaming like lamps in the dark. He forgot the taste of bread, the sound of leaves, the feel of the sun. The only name he had left was Gollum, and even that was half a hiss. Yet within him there were still two voices. Sméagol, faint and timid, longing for the world he had lost, and Gollum, cruel and cunning, clutching at the ring. These two fought inside him, each trying to master the other. The ring was all he had. He called it my precious, whispering to it in the dark, stroking it as though it were alive. It was his only friend, his only light. But even in the deep places of the world, nothing stays hidden forever. One day, during the events that would later be known as the Quest of Erebor, a small hobbit named Bilbo Baggins stumbled into Gollum's cavern. Bilbo had been separated from his companions and found himself lost in the dark. There, in the shadows, he met Gollum. They played a game of riddles, ancient and strange. Bilbo's wit saved him, but chance saved him even more. He found the ring, dropped by Gollum in the dark, and slipped it into his pocket. When Gollum discovered his precious was gone, his rage and grief were terrible to see. But Bilbo, invisible with the ring's power, escaped into the tunnels and out into the sunlight. From that moment Gollum's obsession turned outward. He hated and feared the thief, but he also hungered for the ring as a starving man hungers for bread. He followed Bilbo's trail for years, whispering Baggins and Shire to himself until those names became his only guide. Thus, when the War of the Ring began, Gollum had already been searching for decades. Captured by Sauron's servants, he was tortured in the dungeons of Barad-dûr until he revealed what he knew, Baggins and Shire. He was released or escaped, but the Dark Lord's mark was upon him. He drifted through the wilderness, a creature of shadows, until at last he found the new bearer of the ring, Frodo Baggins. Frodo and his loyal friend Samwise Gamgee took him prisoner. But Gollum was no ordinary captive. His split nature made him dangerous and pitiful at once. Frodo, perceiving the faint glimmer of Smeagol within, treated him with mercy, calling him by his old name. This kindness awakened a strange loyalty. For a time, Smeagol led them faithfully, guiding them through the dead marshes, past the Black Gate, toward the hidden ways into Mordor. But the darker voice of Gollum was never silent. It whispered of treachery, of taking back the precious, of tricking these hobbits into ruin. This inner battle reached its height as they neared Mordor. Smeagol swore on the ring itself to serve the Master, but Gollum plotted in secret. He led Frodo and Sam to the lair of Shelob, the great spider, hoping she would kill them and leave the ring for him. Yet even this plan failed. Sam drove Shelob off and Frodo survived. Gollum fled, but his obsession would not let him go far. Finally, at the very cracks of doom, where the ring had been forged, fate brought them all together. Frodo stood upon the edge, holding the ring over the fire, but at the last he could not destroy it. The ring's power was too strong. "The ring is mine," he said, slipping it onto his finger and vanishing. Gollum, half mad with longing, sprang upon him. Invisible though Frodo was, Gollum found him by smell and touch. They struggled, and in his frenzy Gollum bit off Frodo's finger, taking the ring at last. In that moment, joy and triumph lit his face. He danced on the brink, clutching his precious to his breast, his eyes wide and shining. He had it back, but in his madness he slipped. With a cry that echoed like the fall of ages, Gollum tumbled into the fire, still holding the ring. Thus both he and the ring were consumed, ending its power forever. Smeagol's long torment was over. He had been thief and guide, murderer and savior, monster and victim. Yet in the end, though not by his will, he accomplished what the wise could not. He destroyed the ring and with it Sauron's power. Without Gollum, the quest would have failed. His doom and his redemption were bound together in the fire of Mount Doom. In the quiet that followed, when the ashes of Barad-dûr blew across the plain and the eye of Sauron was gone, some said a wisp of mercy rose for Smeagol. Perhaps, beyond the circles of the world, he found a place of healing where the weight of the ring no longer dragged him down. Perhaps not. The tales of the wise do not say, but his story endures as a warning and a mystery, of how power corrupts, of how even the smallest can be twisted, and of how grace may come from the least expected hand. For Smeagol was not wholly lost. In his last moment, clutching the ring he loved and hated, he destroyed the darkness he had served. In doing so, he freed Middle-earth and himself,